welcome you inside the Grand Ballroom here on the second floor of the Westin in Uptown Charlotte. NC State has now joined us inside the room as we continue our 2019 ACC football kickoff. We'll spend a few minutes with the players and the coaches as we will talk to our offensive player first, and then we will bring our defensive player up and then our head coach. So as they all three stand for a quick photo op, we will have our first player in Justin Wilson address everybody. Justin, we've got microphones that are floating throughout the room, so we've got questions. Folks, if you would, please identify yourselves and the agency that you are with to make sure that our student athletes and our coaches know exactly who it is you are. So microphones on both sides. We'll get our first one going on this side. Courtney will go first row, right side with Dan. Justin Witt, who's we're spending time with for about 6 or 7 minutes.
Justin, Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Just what you could say about John Garrison as the O-line coach for you, and just what you've taken away from him and him coming onto the team.
John Garrison has been a great coach for us so far. Him coming in after Coach Ledford left us was kind of hard, but getting to know Coach Garrison's system has definitely been huge for us because he brings different things that we didn't learn from our past coaches, but we know now, so he's definitely going to be a great coach for us.
Justin, to your left, third row.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com, Justin. Officially, your offense is called the Pro Tempo offense. How will it look this season? Obviously, some different personnel, but what will determine whether it's as effective as it was last year?
It comes down to us as the players. We control the tempo. Our coaches try to stress to us how to keep a good tempo throughout the game, but it all depends on how fast we get up to the line, how fast can we get the ball snapped before the defense is ready.
Justin, we're going to go to your right side, the fourth row towards the inner aisle as you see the microphone moving that way.
Justin, Andrew Schnittker with Pack Pride. With you guys losing 3 starters on the offensive line and replacing your coach, how important do you feel like your role as a leader to kind of help that offensive line gel as one of the guys who's back from last year is?
It's a huge role. We got a lot of young guys coming in, and we had guys in the past who taught me how to be a great leader, like Garrett Bradbury, Tyrone Prescott, Tyler Jones, guys from Tony Adams, who all taught me how to be a great leader. And I feel like I could pass that knowledge on down to younger guys who are going to have to step up one day and be another leader for us.
Justin, let's follow that up here from the podium. How would you describe your leadership style? What characteristics lend to what it is you are as a leader?
I like to be a vocal leader. I like to lead by example also. I feel like if I'm doing the right things, younger guys could look at that and be like, all right, I want to model my game after that, or I want to act like that outside of the field. I feel like I could just lead younger guys by example.
Back to the third row to your left with Bob.
Justin, you guys were a little pass heavy last year. Worked out. You had a great quarterback, great receivers. But with the change in personnel to where you're younger at those positions, would you expect to be more run-oriented this year?
I feel like we're going to run the same offense. We got great quarterbacks who could come in and step up after Ryan Finley left. We got great running backs who would step up after Reggie Gillespie left. I feel like we're going to run the same style of offense and be more explosive with some of the guys that we have coming in now. No, I feel like it's going to be pretty much the same that it has been.
Justin, I'll ask the last question from the podium here. As you think about the number of snaps that you've taken, as you think about being a junior this year, you're halfway through your career, what are your goals moving forward?
I got high goals for myself. I feel like if you set the bar too low, you won't meet your goals where you want to meet them. I feel like I have a great chance to make it in the NFL, but it all starts with what I did today. I feel like I'm in a role where I could go out there and compete with anyone right now, but it all depends on like if I get the work in the off season.
Justin, thanks for the time. You can now switch places with James Smith-Williams. We'll have about 7 minutes or so with James, and we'll see about getting our comments from our student athletes. James, welcome. We will go third row with Bob Holliday once again to your left.
James, I used to see your games at Millbrook. You were thinner then.
Yeah.
Kind of like a basketball player with pads. What have you done to fill out so well?
Yeah, so he's talking about maybe 60, 70 pounds ago. I was a 195-pound kid, and I think the biggest thing for me has been buying into what the program's teaching us, buying into the weight room with Coach Thunder and the nutrition plan with our staff, and it's helped me grow a lot.
James, first row, far right.
Alan Wood and Bladen Journal. Can you describe the competition, the push that gets better that goes on between you and Laurel Murchison?
Oh, I love Laurel Murchison. He's a great football player. He's a great guy, and we've grown very close. And I would say that every day he does something new, and I'll do something new, and we're trying to copy each other or teach something that we've learned somewhere else, and it's helped us both grow.
James, to your left, the sixth row.
Alyssa Ray, WNCN Raleigh. With so much experience and depth on the defensive line, how much confidence do you guys have coming into this season?
We have a lot of confidence. I think that comes from experience, like you said, but it also comes from, knowing the system, knowing who's around me. Like you said, playing beside Laurel Murchison gives me a sense of confidence. So we're excited to play, and we're excited to get going.
James, your next two questions are going to come first row, back-to-back guys sitting side by side.
James, just how you would describe, in your opinion, from your viewpoint, the Wolfpack and what Coach Doeren has done with this team and how he's kind of elevated this team and this program overall, not just in the ACC, but in the country.
Right. I think Coach Doeren has a standard, and that standard's raised every day, and he's set the bar high, and he's shown us also what it's like to be a man and handle your business, and I think that's reflected on the field as well.
James Hal Niemann from the News Journal and the Sports Blast. We had the commissioner in here earlier, and a lot of talk about the ACC network and ESPN and all that. Do the players talk about that? Is that on your radar in any way, maybe back in your apartment or anything?
Yeah, we're definitely intrigued by it. It's cool to get more coverage, especially for the other sports that are outside of football, that they're all getting covered and all being played on TV as well. So we're definitely aware of it, but at the end of the day, we're here to win games, you know.
We're going to go back to Bob to your left in the third row.
James, for several years now, you guys have been really good at stopping the run, less good at stopping the pass. I believe last year was a little better than the previous year, but I think you'd agree 11th is maybe a little higher in the league than you'd like to be. You returned 3 of your 4 top players from the secondary. Is this the year State gets better in the secondary in pass defense?
Yeah, I think those guys have the experience and the confidence that we need to be the best possible defense on the field. So I'm excited to play with them. I know they're excited to go too.
James, from the podium here, what's it like to wear the number 1?
It's a massive honor. If you look at the guys who came before me, Jalen Samuels, Steph Lewis, and all those guys were hardworking guys that were really well respected in the program, and I think that's reflected in the number 1, so I'm excited to be wearing it.
Other questions from the room for James? James, you're excused. Thanks for the time. We will bring Coach Doeren up for about 15 minutes of time with him. Even though you've identified yourselves with our student athletes, if you would, please reintroduce yourself and the agency with our head coach. And we will go to Bob Holliday. We will make introduction for him. To your left, Coach.
Coach, last year you outscored your opponents by 98 points in the second quarter. In the third quarter, the margin was a scant 7. You've expressed concern before about fans leaving the stadium. With NC State now beginning alcohol sales, do you feel like that's the beginning of a turnaround of keeping more fans in the stadium? And will that help your third quarter effort?
Man, you just threw a softball right at me. Well, they're 2 separate issues. First of all, I'm excited for our fans. I think the entertainment is such an important part of game day for them. And obviously the product we put on the field and the type of player that we bring in for them to watch and the style of football that we play is a big entertaining value. But now for them to be able to buy beer, if that's important to them, have the opportunity to do that in the shade under the stands at halftime. And, I know there's going to be a lot of different spots where they can do that and then be back in there for us. Because, the fact is for those of you that have been to Carter Finley, it's an incredible place to play, and it's a huge advantage. Our sidelines to the bench, our parents sit right behind them, our recruits sit right behind our student section's incredible, and it brings energy and it creates an advantage for our football team, and we want that for 4 quarters. So selfishly, absolutely, I would love to see everybody staying in there because it helps us win. At the end of the day, I think everybody would agree that's our job here, is to win as many games as we can and do it the right way so that our fans can enjoy it, but also, in my opinion, be a part of it, because that's a strength for us.
Let's stay to your left here in the second row.
Coach, Mark Narducci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Could you talk about the development of Devin Leary, and will he be figuring into the quarterback mix this year?
Really excited about Devin. One of the best young passers, just true arm strength that I've been around. And, I think what spring ball is for a guy at his age is his chance to show you where he's at, what he knows, and then how does he take that information from the spring, which ended, the first week in April for us, up until August 1st, and grow from that information. And because I think for all of our players, the less they're thinking about what they have to do, the better they play, and it takes reps to get them there. And so Devin has now the opportunity to see if learning from the spring going into the fall allows him to really showcase that arm, so that he's not thinking about the offensive play and he's thinking more about the defensive coverage or the blitz that's coming at him. And that'll allow him to play faster, and he's going to be a really good player for us. He's a big part of this competition.
To your right in the first row, your next two questions will come from shoulder to shoulder there.
Coach Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Just what you could say about George McDonald, bringing him onto your staff and wide receivers coach, making him co-offensive coordinator, recruiting coordinator, just how he's elevated himself there and your take on him.
I'm a huge fan of George's, to be honest. I think the guy's one of the best teachers and motivators in the country at his position. I feel fortunate that I've had him on my staff as long as I had, and I'm really proud of him, for his growth. Love his family, his wife Heather, and their son Roman, and he's a really good role model, these guys. He is hard on his players, but he loves them. He holds them to a high standard, and they hold themselves to it now because they see that it works. And it was fun seeing Steph Lewis teach Kelvin Harmon, and now Kelvin Harmon taught Emeka, and now Emeka's trying to teach Devin, and they passed the torch to each other through his leadership. And so I'm really thankful to him, and he's earned, the co-offensive coordinator title, and he does a really good job with our pass game.
Keep it there to your right, Coach.
Coach, Hal Niemann from the News Journal and the Sports Blast. Obviously, there's been turnover on the offense, but I want to ask you about the defense. You have a strong – the defense seems like it's going to be one of the strong points. What's one area of the defense that you think needs to improve on?
Well, I think, statistically, we're really good. Top 3 in rushing defense, top 3 in third down defense, top 3 in red zone defense. We need to create more takeaways on defense, in my opinion. Offenses are going to get yards. You guys all know the RPO world allows offenses to do things that really aren't fair. In football, to have linemen downfield and throw forward passes is really hard on a defense. And so the stress gets put on the secondary if you're a team that wants to stop the run, and that's something I believe in. So our DBs obviously get a lot of the blame, and I don't think that's always their fault. A lot of times they're playing one-on-one, and everyone else is trying to defend the run game, and that's just college football. But if we can get more takeaways and do what we did last year on third down in the red zone, stopping the run, create shorter fields for our offense, I think that would be outstanding for our football team.
Coach, to your left here, first row through my podium.
Richard Walker, freelance writer. Certainly we're here in Charlotte. You want to be back here at the end of the year, but you guys and your staff are here a lot because of the recruiting area. Talk about how important Charlotte recruiting is for you guys, and that has grown over the years, certainly.
Well, Charlotte's been great to our program. The high school coaches here we've built great relationships with. Obviously, this year's draft and last year's draft, you can see that when you see what happened with Garrett Bradbury, National Award winner, the career that Jalen Samuels and B.J. Hill are having from this area. And we've got a lot of good players from Charlotte, and we'll continue to battle to do that. I think it's an important city for all the schools in this state, and it's been one that's helped us quite a bit. And it's been fun over the last 6 years to see this area grow. There's so many people moving into our state, not just Raleigh, but Charlotte, and there's a good population of talent here to recruit from.
Coach, right side, first row, far right side.
Hey, Coach, Alan Wooden, Bladen Journal. With Laurel Murchison, his agility, his strength, is it possible that you have, he's great on the defensive line, but are there other positions maybe he could play for you, but also in the NFL?
Yeah, I think Laurel is a name, if he stays healthy, knock on wood, that's what we need him to do. Should be one of the better defensive linemen, interior guys in the conference. He's very disruptive. He plays hard. He's got a great motor, a big heart. The game is slow to him right now. He's not thinking at all. And in the weight room, I mean, there isn't anything that he can't do in there with Coach Thunder. So the biggest thing for him is just going to be staying healthy. He will be a disruptive force in the interior of our front.
Go back to Bob Holliday here on our left.
Coach, last year you were very pass-heavy, worked out great, talented quarterback, receivers, they're not there. You have some talented young running backs.
We do.
And I'm wondering, as the new players involved in the pass game mature, if you may become a little more run-heavy, if the run-pass balance will change a little bit this year.
Well, our offense is built, to be balanced, first of all. But at the same time, I'm not going to just beat my head against the wall. We had 3 outstanding wide receivers last year, and Ryan was one of the best throwers in the country, and so we took advantage of that. We'll see what we end up with this year. I'm excited about Ricky Person and really excited about our young backs, Zonovan Knight, Jordan Houston, Delbert Mims. We've got 4 talented running backs, but they need to get into camp and show that they can hang on to the football and that they'll protect our quarterback and do all the things that Coach Kitchings demands from them. But, our offense is trying, constantly evolving. But one thing that does remain constant is I want to be a balanced football team. I want to run it when I want to run it. I want to throw it when I want to throw it, and be able to have the confidence with our offensive line that they can do both. And I think if you get too one-sided to that, it gets really hard now to shift to the other when you need it in a football game.
Coach, if you look up the center aisle, 6th row, red shirt.
Coach, Charlie Pogakar, the Hillsborough News of Orange County. With Peyton Wilson coming off the issues with his knee, what can you say about what you've seen from him this spring and where he stands coming into the season?
Well, he's chomping at the bit. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Peyton's an incredible competitor. He was a great wrestler, incredible player in high school, and hasn't been able to play in a long time. And he's healthy, he's fully cleared, and probably more excited to play in training camp than anybody on our football team. And he's in the office all the time watching tape on his own. I see him every day. He's really, really looking forward to this fall. And I'm excited to see him because, the kid loves the game and he hasn't had it in his life. So it's something he's missed, and I'm excited to see him out there doing it.
Coach, left side, 6th row, blue shirt.
Coach Alyssa Ray, WNCN Raleigh. Do you have a time frame you'd like to establish a starting quarterback? And what impressed you with Matt McKay last season?
It'd be great to be able to give you a timeline. I think when it shows itself to us, we'll know. There's a lot of data that we accumulate on a day-to-day basis when we start practice, from completion rate to touchdown interceptions to who can stay on the field and create the most first downs to our red zone opportunities and what happens down there. Do they score? Do they kick a field goal? Do they turn it over? To 2-minute drills. And you accumulate data over time and see who has the lead. And sometimes it's really telling, and sometimes it isn't. And so I wish I could give you a deadline. I don't know it. It's on the players to show me who it is, to be honest. And I want to see who's the leader of that group, How do these guys play for them, and who can inspire the guys around them. I know as a guy that played offense in college, we had a quarterback, we would have done anything for that guy. And he got hurt in a game, I remember it. And the next guy came in, and you could just feel the emotion of the huddle leave. And so, you want that guy to be an inspirational part of your offense where they trust and they'll fight for him. And it takes time to find that, And the good thing is we've got options. We've got some good players there.
Back in that general direction, Coach, to your left, 4th row.
Coach Cameron from Louisville Courier-Journal. I'm not sure. I imagine just being in North Carolina, you've had some contact with Coach Scott Satterfield. Just kind of in your talks with him, just what have been your impressions of him, and how do you think he'll do at Louisville?
Yeah, when Coach Sat was at App, they used to come visit us every spring, and got to know him very well. I think a lot of him. He's a good coach. He's a good man. He did a tremendous job at App State. I'm not sure, what the workload looks like for him at Louisville, but I know he's a guy that will do it the right way and work hard at it.
Coach, left side, 2nd row.
Hi, Coach. Tom Shanahan, the Shanahan Report. North Carolina is a growing state. The talent's been growing with it. You've had a lot of recent success with Raleigh area recruits. Talk about how, since you first got here, how you've tried to tap into that and adapted to it.
Well, I think 45 players on our team were from North Carolina when I was hired 6 years ago, and now it's upward of 70. And so we always try to start in the state. It's nice for those young men to have their families close. I think the transition for a lot of people is hard from high school to college, and sometimes having that family nearby helps them through those struggles. And then being able to have them come to the games easily and less expensive and all those things. But it starts with having the talent to do that. You know, I've coached at places where you didn't have that many good players in your state. And I think that's the one thing people don't realize. If you look at the current NFL active rosters, the state of North Carolina is represented very well. It's in the top 10 for active players in the NFL. And so there's a lot of good players in the state. And so we're fortunate to have that. And then surrounding the state, you know, the states that touch our state, we're in those states heavily as well.
Coach left side, first row.
Coach Steve Reed from the Associated Press, you touched on the quarterback situation. Right now, I mean, does anybody, can you give us an idea, does anybody have an upper hand? And can you break down some of the guys?
I'm not going to give you the answer to that because I don't want to do that. I want to see who improves over the summer. And I'm not trying to hide anything. I mean, I just think you're talking about a transfer that came in January, a kid that redshirted last year, and a kid that's in his third year. And there's a lot of growth that's going to happen from the end of that spring to the beginning of this fall. And I'd be selling them short not to give them that opportunity, you know. And once we see where it's at, obviously Matt has been here the longest, has taken the most reps, and so he has that value for him. But, you know, I'm really excited to see these guys compete. And I think that's what they signed up to do when they came here, and we need to give them that opportunity.
Coach, from the podium here, special teams never gets a whole lot of love during these press conferences. Talk about Mackenzie Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate with Mackenzie coming in, to bring him in a year earlier than he would be the starter, to follow A.J. Cole, who in my opinion was a really good punter for us, but he's one of the greatest human beings I've been around. And so for Mackenzie to get to see him and shadow him for a year, I'm excited for him. And he's got a lot of ability. You know, he can punt on the move, being a guy that was an Australian rules player, and but he can also sit in the pocket and directional punt. And he's got a great personality. He's an older guy that has a lot of experience behind him. And he's in a room with the guy that had great success last year in Chris Dunn. And, you know, Chris was a weapon for us as a field goal kicker a year ago, and, you know, kicked a 50-plus, I think it was a 54-yard field goal in our spring game. Might have been longer than that, and drilled it. I mean, it would have been good from 60. So he's getting better and coming off of a year where he was a freshman All-American. So I feel great about that area of our football team. And the return game's an area that we can get better, and I'm excited, you know, to add Tabari Hines and some of these young freshmen to our football team to help us in the return mode as well.
To your right, Dan, we'll have our last question in the first row.
Coach, just to speak on recruiting and what you see from these guys going through their high schools and whatnot, because not only are they rising up at NC State, but they're going to the NFL. You mentioned the Bradley Chubbs, Jermaine Pratts, Kelvin Harmons, Ryan Finley, and so forth. Just what you're seeing in them, and just what you can say about your staff really doing their homework to find good guys collegiately and on the professional level.
Yeah, I was really fortunate when I was at the University of Wisconsin to work for Brett Bielema and Barry Alvarez, and I think that program did a phenomenal job at developing players, you know, that were three-sport athletes, that were tough guys, and I got to watch that and be a part of that for 5 years, and it's come with me here, and I think our staff understands we don't just look for good football players, you know, we look for guys that love to train and love to play, that are good human beings. And I think James is a great example of that. And here's a guy that was a 185-pound linebacker that's a 270-pound defensive end. And that doesn't happen if he doesn't love the process of working hard. And so we have to find that in our process of evaluation of recruiting, and go to the weight room and watch them lift. You know, go to their track meet or go to their wrestling meet or their basketball practice and see them do the dirty stuff behind the scenes, not the stuff on game day that everybody does. And so we put a lot of time and effort into that. and I think our staff has done well, following that formula. And then it comes down to how we coach them and how, Coach Thunder and his staff develop them, and Justin Smith, our trainer. We've got a good group of people around these players that help them a lot. And I think they understand the value of those people in their lives, and they take advantage of the opportunity they have to work with them.
NC State, thank you. Good luck this year.
Thank you, guys.
Folks, a reminder to the media that voting for the ACC preseason order to finish, along with a preseason player of the year and preseason all-ACC team, that voting